In the past couple of months, there was a story in the newspaper here in Chicago where we live that outraged most people in the suburbs. It was a story of a 14-year-old girl who came home from school after her day there, went into her home by herself. Her parents weren't home yet, her brother wasn't home yet, and there she met an intruder who was already in her house, robbing her family. And instead of walking away, this intruder actually stabbed the girl to death and did some terrible things with her body and with her cell phone. It was a terrible story, and frankly, it was enough to make you really angry. I mean, I was outraged reading it, and so were a lot of my neighbors. When my wife mentioned it to one of her friends, that neighbor had a different perspective. She said, it's interesting, we're really outraged about this particular story, this one girl getting killed because she's one of our own and she lives among the suburbs where we live. But how often does this happen in Chicago every day, the city of Chicago, or around the world, people dying of hunger? It doesn't seem to affect us at all. It's a pretty good point, really. Like my outrage was huge because I could identify with this girl and her family in the suburbs where I live, and it was just like my family and my little daughter coming home, and I was really mad about it. I want to do something about it. But when I hear about someone in the city getting shot, it's like, oh yeah, or someone dying of hunger in Africa, oh yeah, it's fine. Shane Claiborne wrote a book, and he talked about the fact that when we are adopted into the body of Christ, our family grows because the body of Christ is huge all over the world. And his point's well taken, and it really makes me kind of think about this girl, this situation, my outrage. Will I be just as outraged for the people around the world, for my family, my greater family in the body of Christ, who are being persecuted for their faith or dying of hunger or murdered senselessly? Will I be just as outraged? And what will it take for me to be just as passionately outraged for them in those situations as I was for this little girl in the suburbs where I live? How about you?